Hello, folks. Brandon Chapman with you today. It's a new video for Theo Trade. It's Wednesday, May 28th. It's a holiday on Monday, so I sub with Don today. So I got the video for today where Don normally does the Wednesday video. But boy, we got something for you, and hopefully can help you as we're going into a rather interesting period, and especially overnight with NVIDIA's earnings coming up on the docket. So welcome to the squishy middle. So when I say the squishy middle, it's just a matter of saying, look, you thought you had a pretty good handle on direction yesterday, and then today happens. You know, we've got 20 minutes to the close. We're down 0.4%. We look at this on a 1 day, 1 minute basis. It looks like there's more volatility to the downside right now. And it just seems like the market just doesn't know where it wants to go. And, you know, to an extent, it does make sense. We have NVIDIA coming up after the close today. You can see there's a degree of selling going here. We got news coming from the Trump administration about, do we sell stuff to China? Makes you wonder how those trade deals are going right now. And that's part of what we'll kind of talk about today during our setup. But there's a degree of uncertainty. And when we go back to the S&P 500 here, we realize that, look, you think you know the direction until we get an announcement. Today, maybe it's an earnings announcement after the close from NVIDIA. Maybe it's a Trump announcement from the White House about some trade deal that may be going well or not. And we're seeing the markets really getting pushed around based on these overnight, over weekend type news. We saw it back here, for example, big jump up. Then all of a sudden we take it away with raising tariffs on Europe. Then we delay the tariffs and we're up here again. And progressively, yes, we're inching higher. But what's happening is that there's not really any real grounding. And the market, frankly, is pretty expensive up here relative to past valuations. And you can say, well, yeah, but when have valuations really mattered? I get it. But right now we have a Fed that's pretty restrictive right now in terms of their policy. The bond market certainly has not been on great footing. And we're just wondering, well, what's going to happen here? News that China is selling our debt. I get it. They probably are to raise dollars. And then what are they doing with those dollars? Very likely what they're doing is they're buying Chinese yuan. I was looking at this earlier today during a session. Trying to find it here. This is CNY. This is Chinese yuan to the US dollar. And what you'll notice is that, you know, we've seen a lot of strength in the Chinese yuan and weakness in the dollar. Does this make sense? Not really. I mean, China's on really poor footing economically. And this is something back in here in March I was looking at very closely and talking about during our sessions about, okay, when does the sell-off in the Chinese yuan happen? Well, guess what? It began around or peaked around the 19th of March. And we saw this. Now we've seen the march higher. Are they defending their currency? Probably. Are they doing it through selling treasuries? Likely. All this stuff going on. If you look at FXI, for example, we're kind of peaked up here. And this was the 19th. Where was it? 19th was right there. And as we started to see the Chinese yuan break down against the dollar, we saw a major sell-off in FXI. We're in a very similar position. In fact, Don took a trade today on our 3 trades a week promotion for at Theo Trade on FXI, looking for downside here. Not a lot, just a little bit. And in fact, my Ghost Prince mastermind that we do, we have an alert service. We're taking a bearish swing at EFA down here, looking at it maybe pulling back towards this kind of 85 level, retesting prior highs based on some significant bearish activity in EWG. There's not a lot of liquidity in here. We don't have weekly options as well. But if we come down here, I'll just change this to puts just to show you where the interest is. And it's in the July expiration. And you just see all these puts. You know, a lot of these are just sweeps coming at the same time. And this is part of what I do in Ghost Prints. We look for significant option trades, among other things, big prints, either in stocks or options. And we're trading based on this. But EWG, the EFA is a little more broader reaching. It's Asia plus Europe, et cetera, looking for a breakdown here. Is the dollar about to rebound vis-a-vis the Chinese yuan and vis-a-vis the euro? We're seeing that the dollar strengthened in the last few days. Can we pull back here? So this is all comes down to what? The squishy middle I'm talking about. We may, in fact, be range bound. The only problem is we were range bound back here for a little while with significant volatility. Now, all of a sudden, we might be range bound with low degrees of volatility. And you got to try to get the swings right and get enough movement to be able to capitalize on it. And hopefully you're not on the wrong side of the next announcement. This is keeping traders on their toes, where all of a sudden you think we're going down, but all of a sudden you see an announcement over the weekend and we're going back the other direction. We saw strength in financial stocks yesterday. We saw option activity in financial stocks. And all of a sudden today, we're basically down a little bit, down 1.2%, almost reversing about half the gains we got yesterday in this space, in KRE or XLF or KBE, which all had significant call option activity in all those three products. And so all of a sudden you think you get the direction right, and all of a sudden more news comes out. And again, the news on NVIDIA is pivotal tonight for the market. Notice how we're backed up against the high again. We have a nice little spinning top formation. And again, the announcement after the market close at a little after 2 p.m. Eastern, we're going to be able to see exactly what the market's produced in terms of buying or selling. We look at the expected move right now. Now, you could look at this week's expected move, which goes through Friday of 922, but there's some vol skew in here, meaning that this volatility is higher than that volatility. Expiration skew, it's implying about an $8.30 move. Well, $8.30 on 135, that's a very significant move for a stock of this size. So take 830, let's say 835 divided by 135. What do we got? 6.2%. So if NVIDIA is going to move 6.2%, what's going to happen to the periphery of AI as a result? This could have far-reaching effects on this space. And the idea, can we actually monetize? And is the demand there to build centers? Microsoft has certainly, talked about the idea that they're pulling back on some of their capital expenditures in AI, not knowing how to monetize it. People are going the TPU route versus the GPU route. But again, we see the wonders of AI in terms of making, films, short films, etc. It looks amazing. Can they make money doing it? We're going to get a sense of that today. And also, what's the effect on federal government policy, trade policy? Where can NVIDIA produce? Where can NVIDIA sell? All this stuff is going on in the backdrop here, and we're going to get a sense today via the announcement and the press conference of whether or not they see a real impact. Do they pull their guidance? Do they provide guidance? Do they diminish the forward guidance? These are all things that we need to consider, because they may actually pull a rabbit out of the hat and do very well in the previous quarter. But where do we go from here? And that's what the market ultimately needs. That's what they want to look for. They're wanting to look for surety, because at the end of the day, guess what? We're seeing diminished forward earnings expectations, right? Those projections are coming in, and the market is back near all-time highs again. We look at this current quarter and we're seeing, okay, what is expected? The estimate is about 75 cents. The high and low, we're seeing a little bit of disparity there, mostly pricing towards the low end of the range. Previous year was about 61 cents. Phenomenal growth still, right? We look at current year, 2.99. Current year is last year, rather, 299. Current year is expected to be 416. Next year, 563. What happens to these numbers? We're talking about guidance for next quarter, guidance for current year, guidance for next year. What type of clarity do they provide for the market? Do they meet and exceed these numbers? And we're probably going to see NVIDIA have a pretty good day. If they don't, if they diminish those expectations or provide any degree of uncertainty, what we're looking for, we're saying, okay, 52% revenue growth this year, 52% next quarter, 66% current, 23% in 2027. Again, what are those revenue and earnings expectations? Now, this company does a pretty good job meeting and exceeding those expectations. The past, surprising or beating analyst estimates by 9%, 5%, 8%, 5%. They're doing well. We're looking at recent revisions. 444, we saw some cuts here in the last 90 days, a recent positive revision, but the general trend has been down. We're down about 28 cents from where we were 90 days ago. For next year, it was up and then down a little bit. This is a rather material change. And again, we've lowered the bar for them to jump over. How much of that's already priced in? We go back to the price here. We're back again against highs. We've had a really strong run off the lows. Have we suddenly said, look, we've priced in a lot of that already. We need something more. And so all of a sudden we beat overnight and the upside movement isn't quite as great. Maybe we got 140 in tow, but the downside potential, if we miss, could be very, very significant in NVIDIA. And I'll just show you one trade, probably among many, but this is one that kind of stood out to me today. some bearish bets, and you hear people talking about, some people took a bullish bet in the betting markets. Well, here's something in a different type of market here, the options market on NVIDIA going into today's earnings. This was placed earlier today for 27 June, and I'll just show you down here at the volume and open interest. 4,000 contracts mostly bought down here at the 85 strike. Is it possible that we could gap down to 85? No. But the reality is that if we miss, the downside potential is much greater likely than the upside. The upside surprise, maybe it's $8, but the downside might be 16. We may very likely see a skewed result from NVIDIA if they surprise to the upside or surprise to the downside. But either way, expect some volatility with a 6% expected move going into tomorrow off of NVIDIA's earnings. Well, folks, that's what I've got for today. We'll catch you back on the video on Monday. You have a great one. We'll see you then. Thank you.